Right now, somewhere, someone is cracking open a beer. It took 2 seconds. A can, a fridge, done. But the story behind that drink, it goes back further than agriculture, further than pottery, further possibly than humans themselves. So when did we actually start drinking alcohol? The answer starts millions of years before the first human ever existed. Let's start with fruit, rotting on a forest floor, because alcohol, in its most basic form, is just sugar that's been broken down by yeast, and that process happens naturally, constantly, anywhere fruit falls and sits in warm air. This means alcohol existed in nature long before anyone drank it on purpose. Our primate ancestors were surrounded by it. In 2014, biologist Robert Dudley proposed something called the Drunken Monkey Hypothesis. His argument was simple. Fermented fruit smells stronger than fresh fruit. It's easier to find in dense forest. And for a primate trying to locate calories fast, that smell was a signal. Food is here. Dudley argued that early primates evolved a genuine attraction to the smell and taste of alcohol because it led to ripe, calorie-dense food. This wasn't about getting drunk, it was about survival math. Alcohol was a signal flare for sugar. Here's where it gets stranger. Geneticists studying the human ADH4 gene, which helps metabolize alcohol, found something remarkable. Around 10 million years ago, a single mutation appeared in our ancestral line. That mutation made the enzyme roughly 40 times more efficient at breaking down ethanol. This wasn't random. Researchers believe it appeared right around the time our ancestors shifted from living in trees to spending more time on the forest floor, exactly where fermenting fruit accumulates. In other words, evolution handed us better alcohol tolerance millions of years before we were even human. Long before anyone brewed anything, our bodies were already getting ready. So by the time actual humans show up, the hardware was already installed. The question wasn't whether we'd drink, it was when we'd start doing it on purpose. And here's where the archaeology gets interesting. For a long time, historians assumed alcohol was a byproduct of agriculture. Grow grain, store grain, grain gets wet, grain ferments. Surprise, beer. Farming first, drinking second. But in 2018, archaeologists excavating Raqefet Cave in Israel found something that broke that timeline completely. Stone mortars, roughly 13,000 years old, with residue showing deliberate malting and fermentation of wild wheat and barley. This is nearly 2,000 years before agriculture is believed to have started in the region. People weren't farming yet, they were still hunting and gathering, and they were already brewing beer. Some archaeologists now argue this flips the entire story of civilization. The old theory was, humans settled down, started farming, and beer came later as a lucky accident. The new theory, gaining serious traction, is the opposite. Humans wanted beer badly enough that the desire to brew it reliably may have helped drive the shift toward farming grain in the first place. Not bread, beer. Some researchers call this the beer before bread hypothesis. It sounds like a joke. It is not. There's more evidence backing this up. At Göbekli Tepe in modern Turkey, one of the oldest known ritual sites in the world, dating back over 11,000 years, archaeologists found massive stone vats with residue consistent with fermented grain. This site predates farming villages in the region. It was built by hunter-gatherers, and yet they were producing alcohol in large quantities, likely for communal feasts and rituals tied to construction of the site itself. Which raises a wild possibility. Some of the earliest large-scale cooperative building projects in human history may have been fueled, quite literally, by beer. Now let's go further east. In China, at a Neolithic site called Jiahu, archaeologists found pottery jars dating back roughly 9,000 years. Chemical residue analysis revealed a fermented beverage made from rice, honey, and fruit. This wasn't a primitive accident either. It required specific timing, specific ingredients, and repeated success to leave behind that much residue across multiple vessels. Whoever made it knew exactly what they were doing. So why does this matter so much? Because alcohol wasn't just a drink. In early human societies, it was social infrastructure. Fermented beverages spoil less predictably than raw fruit or grain, and they required trust and coordination to produce in bulk. Brewing meant planning ahead, storing surplus, sharing communally. Anthropologists studying ritual feasting believe shared alcohol consumption strengthened group bonds in the same way shared fire and shared meals did. A group that brewed and drank together was a group that had already solved several cooperation problems. It's the same logic as the campfire circle. Shared altered states build trust fast. There's also a medical angle almost nobody talks about. Ancient water was not safe the way we assume. Contaminated water sources caused disease constantly, long before anyone understood bacteria. Weak fermented beverages, low in alcohol but higher in acidity, were often safer to drink than untreated water. Some historians argue this is one reason beer became such a dietary staple in early agricultural societies. It wasn't primarily about intoxication. Weak ancient beer was calorie-dense, relatively safe, and effectively functioned as a food source you could drink daily without getting sick. Egyptian laborers building pyramids were documented receiving beer rations, not as a reward, as basic sustenance. Of course, not everything about ancient alcohol was practical. Ritual use runs through nearly every ancient civilization on record. Sumerian hymns praised beer as a gift from the gods. Egyptian mythology tied beer directly to the goddess Hathor. Greek and Roman societies built entire religious frameworks. Dionysus, Bacchus, around wine and altered consciousness. Alcohol wasn't hidden or shameful. It was sacred, woven directly into how ancient people understood their relationship with the divine. So when did ancient humans start drinking alcohol? The honest answer is, informally, millions of years before humans existed, through fruit our primate ancestors were already biologically drawn to. Intentionally, at least 13,000 years ago, based on physical residue we've actually found. And the desire itself, the pull toward alternate states, toward shared ritual, toward group bonding through consumption, that appears to be older than agriculture, older than pottery, possibly older than language itself. We didn't invent drinking. We inherited it from a primate in a forest chasing the smell of sugar and rotting fruit who had no idea that instinct would eventually build breweries, pyramids, religions, and eventually a can you crack open in 2 seconds without thinking about any of this at all.